Brian Hubbard. I'm the chair of the Diversity Committee here at Gulf Coast State College. This is the second talk in our series of community engagement talks, so keep an eye out for more talks in this series as the semester goes on. So I'm happy to introduce Sheri Crem.
Yes.
She is the founder and CEO of Be Kind to All. She's one of the founders and on the board of the LGBTQ plus Center of Bay County.
Yep.
She also wrote a book called The Business Case for Kindness. So I think she has a copy here.
I do.
We'll show it later. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. So who read the flyer? I want to read the flyer because this is so important, right? Thanks to COVID-19, we're seeing a historic shift in our world. This shift has been bubbling up for years and now has become the forefront. This is where leading with kindness is going to transform companies and communities. Kindness and empathy are superpowers, and it's time to activate these superpowers in more leaders so that we can create the future which is diverse, inclusive, and equitable. Our future is kind, and we will discuss today what leading with kindness really means and what changes we can make immediately. So I have to start with that because that sounds big, right? I mean, it's a big, tall order, but my outfit is part of this, right? My superpower, I feel like, is diversity, inclusion, and equity, and working with everyone. Because building up kindness and empathy is something that it takes a long time. It's not something that you can just snap on. And that's what it's hard to understand, right? Because we do see people that maybe aren't as kind. So I consider this my superpower. And I also, who had a superhero growing up? All right, who was your superhero?
Wonder Woman.
Imagine that. Do you see my lasso of truth right here? So Wonder Woman was mine as well. And in fact, my costume this year is going to be that. So I had to go get myself a lasso of truth to go along with my invisible airplane that I'm going to be riding around. It's going to be a fun time. But who else had a superhero? Superman. All right, so Wonder Woman and Superman. What are their characteristics? Who are those people? Justice. What else do they do?
She was a woman.
Well, she was a woman, right? But
Makes me not just like
you liked having a female superhero because back at the time there wasn't a lot of those, right? Wonder Woman was she one of the first or was she the first?
Would ISIS be a superhero?
I don't know.
Or maybe ISIS, that was a cartoon.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think Wonder Woman was about young ones, so I would love myself some Wonder Woman.
I'm there with you. Wonder Woman is amazing. So, but what does she stand for?
Justice.
Truth, justice, right?
Quality.
So you have those things, right? And so we have all of these superhero movies out there, right? And I think this is the coolest part because we didn't have a lot of these as much as when I was younger, but you have them and they're showing how being honest and being truthful and being kind to people is our way forward. So I just want you guys to think about that. Think about what your superpower may be. Mine is all of this, but I will be wearing this around if you have not seen me wearing my awesome cape because I love my cape and I'm getting a special one made, so it's going to be awesome. So, yay. All right. That way I've got that off of the microphone now. It's a good thing. So, why should you guys listen to anything I have to say today? That's a really fun thing to start with because who in this room actually knows me and knows anything about me? Little. So I've lived 3 lives. I'm in my 3rd life. That's how I think about it. I grew up in a small town such as this, but in Maryland. And in that small town, small high schools, small things, and it was one of those things I wanted to get out as fast as I could. I hear that a lot from our children here. They want to get out of here as fast as they can, right? They want to go somewhere, which is kind of hurts me sometimes for the high school side of things when we have such great colleges here. But I wanted to get out. So I did. I went to college. That was phase 1, step 1. I went to college in Baltimore. I went to college away from my parents. I went away where I could learn to do things. And when I had the chance to start my 2nd phase, I took it. And I jumped from one college to another and moved to Texas. And Texas, right there, I graduated from Texas Tech University with both my BA and my MBA. And I went and took that, and I worked in corporate America for 15 years. SBC, and then we bought AT&T. I went through so many mergers with them during the time. But that right there, in that second life, is where I started to see everything not working the way I thought that they were supposed to work, right? I thought if I made a hostile work environment complaint to HR, they would handle it. No, HR took 6 months. I know there were dozens of people who reported it, 6 months, and came back and told me nothing was wrong. And I said to them, so it's okay for him to have said those words to us, and they, I know this is gonna be on the internet, so I'm not gonna say the words, but I'm like, that's okay? And they're like, well, that didn't happen. I have dozens of witnesses. And at that point, I knew I was done. I knew that everything that I believed was true was wrong about corporate America. So I left, and I moved here. Life number 3. And life number 3 has been nothing but fantastic. I got down here, I started getting involved with the community, I got involved with the Women's March, I got involved with the LGBTQ Center of Bay County, which I got to, honestly, it is so amazing that I was able to get on the board of that. And I don't know if you guys know, we didn't have a safe space for LGBTQ youth until 2018. That is the year we opened that up. And of course, then Hurricane Michael, we all know, right? Hurricane Michael, but our wall in the back of the building withstood Hurricane Michael. Like, Michael came down on the rest of our part of our stuff, but the wall in the back that we had painted, hand painted, made it through Hurricane Michael. So like, we knew we were supposed to be here. And of course, we're over at the St. Andrew's Episcopal Church, if y'all don't know, it's great over there. So then I decided, hey, you can't actually make change if you're not willing to do something about it. So I ran for city council last year. And boy, was that exciting, because COVID hit in the middle of it, and nobody wanted us to go door to door. And it is one of those things. We had no debates. We had nothing. And so looking at that, it was a great time, and I'm so excited that I did it. He won by 333 votes, which I find interesting, the 3 threes, because threes always have something. It's just a random thing for me. But he won by that. But it just keeps going. And so all of my life, I left that side behind. I moved here. I wrote my book, actually, once I moved down here to the beach as well. I mean, all of these things happen. I do consulting. I get to come out and talk with all of y'all and get to go work with classes. It's just an amazing life that I never had working in corporate America. So that's why I have a lot of different takes on things, because I have lived in multiple places, anywhere from Hagerstown to Maryland to Baltimore, 3 places in Texas, Amarillo, Lubbock, and Dallas twice each, because I had to go around in a circle, Atlanta, and then I finally made it down here, and I really love it here. This is the world's most beautiful beaches, and I want us to become the world's most kindest beaches as well, and get us to where I think that could take us to the next level, even with our tourism, right? Because if we can prove that we are that type of place, it's going to be amazing. So awesome. Any questions before I get started? Awesome. All right. So definition of kindness, which is always a fun one out there. It is the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. So what is an example of kindness that you guys would think of right away?
Sharing with others.
Sharing with others. All right.
Listening.
There is a great one. That's a great superpower too, right? To actually listen to people. That's a great superpower. What else? What else do you think of being kind? Helping people, right? If they need help, if they call you and they need help. Absolutely. It is something that the opposite is meanness, right? So I think we're on the spectrum right now. Do we want to be kind or do we want to be mean, right? You can't have it both ways. You really can't, because that's where we've been teetering. And I cover this in my book. We've been teetering between a command and control type of culture versus an equality, equity culture. We're trying to become more diverse and inclusive and equitable, but we have this top down, right? Listen to me, command and control culture that is holding us. So we're like stuck here. And this is why I'm saying COVID made the difference, right? Do you guys see the mass exodus of people leaving their jobs? maybe not here, but in other, I mean, people are not going to stay somewhere where they're not treated right? They don't want to work for a big bully as a boss, right? I don't think any of us like to be yelled and screamed at, but somehow it gets overlooked and it keeps getting allowed, right? So thinking of what unkindness is, right? The meanness of things. Adult bullies, right? Name calling. I mean, we see this all the time as normal, right? That people are out there saying things and coming up with this, and you're like, how is this something that we want to be part of, right? You have the racism, the sexism, the homophobia, right? You see that, you hear it, and if you don't think it's alive and well here, I could tell you some things. I could tell you whatever you would like to know. First off, I'll say there was a student orientation over at FSU, and we had some pronoun buttons like the one that I'm wearing on a table, and some of the pronouns people didn't like, so it became full on the internet. Somebody posted the picture and the hate that came from a button. Y'all, it's a button. Why can't you just let somebody wear a button? Why do we have to do that? And of course, we did have the swastika over at Moody Park that then got torn down. So we have lots of different things that happen here, but it's not like it doesn't happen other places. We just stand up to it. And that is where it comes down to when I moved here, I honestly, and I got, it was on the Brian Russ show, talking with him, and a lady named Dixie was not happy I said this comment, but I felt like I moved back in time when I moved here, right? I felt like, because I had lived in such progressive places like Dallas and Atlanta and Baltimore, you know, when you live in those places, you don't realize that what you think is normal is not normal in most other places, right? You think having that diversity and inclusion is normal, but then you move somewhere and it doesn't always seem that way. Now, I'm not going to generalize Bay County, because Bay County is amazing. I'm just saying that we do have behaviors here that we have to talk about and we have to work through, because that's the only way that we're going to get better and help change what we need to do here. So, is bullying kind? That's a fun question. No, right? Is name calling kind? Okay, okay. I always keep going back to this. I'm like, that's why I get so, I guess, entrenched to watch the people on the internet just do it. And it makes them feel better just to make fun of people and to do those type of things. And you can't fight with somebody on the internet. I think we all know that, right? You cannot fight with somebody on the internet. Don't bother. Don't bother fighting with the troll. Don't bother fighting with any of that, because it's not going to help you. So, who here has heard of microaggressions? Awesome, this is great. So we're gonna do some examples of microaggressions, because this is something that I think it's part of a great education of us going forward. So I'm gonna hand these out. I know I'm going outside the camera. Just look at a couple of these and then pass them around. There you go. Pick one. So, what is a microaggression? It's a term used for brief and commonplace daily verbal, behavioral, and environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative prejudicial slights and insults toward any group. So what I just handed you guys are some examples that came off the internet. There's articles out there, you guys can read these, but these are some of the most common ones that still happen today. And I will tell you, it's hard sometimes when you hear them, because it really, you're like, why do we still feel this way? Why did this need to come out? Well, what I'm gonna say is you only know what you know in this world. And social learning theory says you learn from your surroundings. And if you are around people that believe this and are part of that, that's all you know. So it takes somebody like us and our superpower of kindness to say, hey, no, that's not right. You know, I've talked to so many black women white women have just come up and touched their hair for no reason whatsoever, especially if they have braids in. They feel the need that they can come up and do that and not even ask permission. Like I can't even acknowledge that, but that does happen. But you have to call that out and say, no, 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 no. You don't get to touch my hair without permission. So we're going to do an exercise now. No, you can just look at them and pass them around. You are good. No, the exercise is to talk about how we get through and make sure that we're looking at how we might also be doing microaggressions and not even realize it. Because that's the thing. I fess up. I make mistakes. We all do. I can't say I'm perfect. And that's where just learning and being better is the key. So this is a great question. Do you believe you were brought up to be colorblind? That was the one with my generation, Generation X. You know, everybody is the same, right? We don't see color. But how can you not see color, right? And that's the hard part of that one. What about, have you ever asked someone, do you have friends that are not the same color, religion, or sexual orientation as you are? So do you have friends that are across the gamut and not just one of those? Because that also does what? It expands your circle, and you get to learn about different things from all the different people that you have within your life. And I think it's Make a Bigger Table. There's a book out there about it, just expanding your table, because that helps insights on that. And do you jump to a stereotype or bias when you see someone who is different than you? Ooh, stereotypes. That's a fun one, right? How often has that happened that we do that? So those are just some questions that I really dealing down in it. So was there any of the examples that really stood out to you guys?
The one you don't sound black.
You don't sound black. You know, why is that? Because what, black people aren't intelligent and articulate, and the articulate word, that's another one too, right? They like to use that as a, All right, what else? I think mine was, so my ex-husband was Hispanic, and I cannot tell you how many times this happened to him where they used his wrong last name. But the one about Jamie Garcia, when his last name is really Jamie Rodriguez, they literally misnamed him multiple times with his last name. And Jimenez is not that hard to say. But it did happen, and those are the things that happen. So, microaggressions. What do you guys do when you hear one or see one? Do you say something to the person? Yep. And how is that helping that person? To do more, right? If they keep doing it. So, we get stuck in this scenario, and I say it's calling out some of the bad behaviors, but it's just telling somebody something that they may not know, because just because we know it doesn't mean you know it. We don't all know the same thing. And if you were brought up, like we were talking about in the social learning, in that, and that's all you don't know that that's offensive. Do you know how many people have thanked me for calling them out on their microaggressions? That sounds a little much, right? But they do, because they didn't know any better. And so we assume that they do. And that's where our assumptions, we know what assume means, right? That's where we get stuck. And that's where I want us to start thinking of kindness, not just as doing something for a person, but standing up for the person and being there for them as well. Because I'll tell you, this is a fun one here. I have learned that I need to trust my gut, right? I think, you've probably had a time where you've not trusted your gut, right? And it's something we all need to do more of. And going back to a chamber event right after Hurricane Michael on the beach, I was at an event. I had actually brought a person from Equality, Florida with me. And it blew my mind, but we're standing there, and this man goes full on racist, talking about the lazy Mexicans that are working, fixing the houses, and I'm just standing there. The gentleman beside me is Hispanic, by the way. And I'm just standing there going, did he just really say that? But I looked over, he wasn't offended, so should I have been? Right. I should have been the one. We put it on our oppressed person to be the one to stand up, right? And that's hard. We can't sit there and always expect that person who's oppressed to have the ability to do it because they've been oppressed for so long. And that's where us being more on the ally side and being willing to stand up. So I'll tell you, I had a long conversation with an attorney here in town, and we talked about it. And it really is something that it's hard to get there, but once you do, you understand that it's not as scary as you thought it was. And that's where we don't say things and we avoid it, right? Because the fear of what? Not being part of the group anymore? Because you called out the bad behavior? You're worried that somebody may make fun of you, right? You're afraid, I mean, we have a lot of fear in this world, right? You could be afraid somebody's gonna come and kill you because you said something, right? And that's scary, I understand. But when you don't know what you don't know, it really is our superpower to help them understand, because that's how we're going to help end discrimination, right? That's where we're going to start us moving into a place where we're all working together as a diverse, inclusive, equitable group instead of the us versus them, which you see out there a lot right now. And I really know that we can do better with this. So I believe my superpower is all of this and keeping it going and talking with you guys and moving these things through. So what will happen if you do this once? If you actually go up to somebody and say, hey, that joke was inappropriate, or, hey, that's not something that really you should say about women. What happens? That's one person, right? What if they were like, oh my God, I did it, and then they're not gonna do it anymore, right? What if they see it out there? Will they call it out and go down that path and say, hey, I learned that this behavior really isn't appropriate and it's offensive to women, it's offensive to whoever it may be offensive to. What can we do about that? And that you have that conversation. That person then could do another person, right? Every time we touch a person, there's a butterfly effect, right? You don't know how far this ripple is going to go. We have no idea. We literally could, by having the empathy and talking with people, we could stop somebody from killing themselves. We could stop somebody from causing an accident. You don't know what they don't know. And that's where kindness and listening and being that way, because you're not doing it out of malice, right? You don't want to call them out because you want to hurt them. You want to call them out so that we can move forward, right? That we can be this diverse, inclusive, and equitable place. So far, any questions on microaggressions? Bad behaviors, yes.
So, what I'm thinking you're getting at is that, okay, so in the scenario about the offensive remark,
Right.
generalizing
Yep.
family workplace,
Right.
that you're going at the person not in a combative way like that offends me, but you're going in a kinder.
Mm-hmm.
And so what, for example, would be the kinder?
That's a great one. What I've really come up to, and this has worked out really well recently, is going over, never in front, right? We all know you praise in public and you do anything else in private, right? Because you don't want, that's absolutely ridiculous to put down somebody. But you go and take them aside. I felt like that was an inappropriate statement that you made, and this is why. And they either take it or not. Most of the time people will say, well, I didn't think of it that way, but now that you've said that, maybe I do need to rethink my opinion on that. But no, not in a combative way, just as kind as you can. I believe that was an inappropriate statement, or that made me feel like if it was something specific, right? Because there are some out there that could come into, be specific for you. You could say that really hurt my feelings, what you said, because that was inappropriate. And people don't know until you tell them.
I think a lot, as
Yep.
an educator, so
Mhm.
we see it in the classroom, right?
Mhm.
We see somebody say something to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so, it's do you say, wait a minute, in the
Yep.
classroom, we don't talk like that to each other or something like that.
Right.
So suggesting that you wouldn't do that.
No.
You would.
Right, because this is where the psychology comes in, right? When you scold, they're going to feel like you're scolding them, right? And if you feel like you're scolded, are you going to want to listen to that person? Exactly. You're like, no, I don't want to listen to that person. So it's taking the kinder approach and going to the side. And I think that's where, a lot of people, because we want to deal with it right there in the second, because we want them to understand that behavior, but they remember what they did. And, they're going to understand when you pull them to the side. And I've done that a few times with some of our high school students that I work with. And it really does. They're like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Because they said something that was inappropriate, that bothered a trans person, and they weren't thinking of it that way because they're bisexual. Whatever it might be, it's across the board. We don't know what offends somebody, or we don't know what hurts somebody unless we talk about it. And, when we have these type of microaggressions and we have these type of things, we just learning, recognizing, and even seeing it in ourselves. You have to pay attention to what you do too, because I've done them and not even realized it. And that's where being self-aware and taking the kinder approach, take it with yourself as well, because we're all going to mess up. So back to the story, I didn't say anything. I have felt guilt. It has been that whole thing, I apologized, but that whole thing has been on my mind ever since. I knew it, but I don't know why. It was something in that moment. But now I know, and now I won't let that happen ever again. So, very good. That was a great. So, any other questions? I liked that one.
What the microaggression they're
Yep.
verbalizing, you actually know could be hurting someone in that very room?
Mm-hmm.
Do you still wait?
If they've already said it, it's said. So that's the thing, right? Now, if it's continued and there's something that keeps continuing on, that would be when you'd want to take them to the side, or do something, or try to change the topic and then take them to the side, or get the students to do another thing while you go and they're doing that and you go talk to them. But yeah, no, it's doing anything immediately in front of people is only going to make them want to do it more. Is only going to make them want to do it more. That's the one thing. My friend teaches high school in Texas, and the greatness of what I have learned from her and her students and how everything goes down is just, it always works better if you take them over to the side after the fact. Awesome. All righty. So, bullying. We have a lot of bullying. And in fact, I just went up in front of Bay District Schools talking about bullying just a few weeks ago, because bullying is rampant. And that's another part of this, not just the microaggressions, but the bullying side of things. Because when people are bullying, most likely there is something behind it. And there's probably microaggressions mixed in there too. But it's something where we have to step up. Why do you think, pull them to the side, why do you think it's okay to make fun of that person? Why do you want to name call that person? Those type of things. What is it about that person? Stepping up and having that conversation. Because honestly, I wish I would have stood up to more bullies in high school. I stood up to a lot. I stood up to quite a few, but I wish I would have stood up to more, because there's still bullies today. And that just hurts me, because the world doesn't need adult bullies at all. So I thought we got over that once we got through high school, but it doesn't ever end. And you're like, So while in corporate America, I saw the bullying and I saw all of these behaviors. And I'll tell you, microaggressions are everywhere in corporate America. All the discrimination is everywhere in corporate America. And they find ways to get around it with HR, or you sue them, right? That's always the answer. Go sue them, because that's going to get you what you need to do. But what I learned was from the millennials and Generation Z that this was wrong. They were the ones who actually came to me on some of the things, because they're like, should I really be treated this way? And I was like, hold on, how are they treating you? And stepping back, and I was like, hold on, this is the behavior that I didn't realize. And I saw it in corporate America, but I hadn't looked at it at my third life, right? Because I had only lived it through the one way, that way. And so what I'm learning here in our community is the more kindness that we give out, the more we're building everything. And the LGBTQ Center is something that nobody thought was going to survive when we opened in 2018. In fact, St. Joe Foundation wouldn't give us money the first year because they said we weren't going to make it. And then they gave us money. It's always fun when you get them to give you money after the fact. But it's one of those things that we built that. Now, have anybody heard of the LEAD Coalition? The LEAD Coalition with Janice Lucas, that organization as well has expanded. And so we have all of Minority PC, we have all of these great organizations out there that keep expanding. And COVID really had a piece of that, because we went out, and this is something at the LGBTQ Center, thinking of leading with kindness, we actually went out and got grants from the government and did COVID kits. So we were out giving people masks and hand sanitizers and thermometers, and we had this whole great kit set up. At food drives, we were giving them away. I mean, it was the best thing ever. But we got the money from the government because we knew we had to do something to give back. And how can you be kinder to the community? And by doing that and giving back, it has really just changed everything. We now, at the LGBTQ Center, we actually have a HUD grant, and we are helping people with money for housing. Think about that, right? We're not just a center that's a safe space. We've become something that's vital to help our community. And this is what you're going to keep seeing. And these organizations are growing and growing to help this organization, this community, with their organizations. And they're ones that are stepping up. I mean, I know Janice Lucas came and did our diversity discussion at my Leadership Bay. I just graduated from Leadership Bay, from the Bay County Chamber. And Janice Lucas was the person who came in to do our diversity discussion, which I'm laughing because I know Janice very well. And we're in there talking, and you know, she's trying to get it across the same thing. You know, the nicer we are to people, you know, we have to talk through these things, because keeping silent is what got us here, right? Keeping our mouth shut is what got us here, and that's not going to help us go forward. So it really is something that our community is growing, and I know that that is going to be the fundamental piece of it. So who knows what day World Kindness Day is? November 13th is World Kindness Day. Are y'all doing anything on the college campus for World Kindness Day? I think we got to fix that, right? Okay, I got to go find somebody in student government or somebody who wants to handle the World Kindness Day. But there's going to be stuff going on, and I'm working on that, because again, showing our community that this is what we have, what we want, how we want to be treated. This is the point, and putting it out there, because we don't know what other people's stories are. We don't know where they have come from, but the compassion, the empathy, the kindness, and being willing to talk, listen, and do those things, it's amazing what it can accomplish. So I want to end with a couple things here, just because I believe in inspirational songs. There are songs out there that always 100% help me when I think maybe I'm not doing the right thing, or maybe, that person's going to get mad at me because I did talk with them, right? Because that's still going to come up when we do these things. And one of them is Invincible by Pat Benatar. Okay, we all know this song, right? I mean, it is one of the most amazing songs out there. But if you think about it, when you go down this path, what are we running for? We've got the right to be angry. What are we running for when there's nowhere we can run to anymore? Because there's nowhere, nobody else is going to do it, y'all. Nobody else is going to, we all have our part. Because if not me, then who? Right? That's our responsibility in the world to do those things. And then my other one is Brave by Sara Bareilles, because this one right there, it's one of those things, nothing's going to hurt you the ways that words do when they settle neath your skin. Keep on the inside, no sunlight. Sometimes the shadow wins. But I wonder what would happen if you say what you want to say and let the words fall out. I want to see you be brave with what you want to say and let the words fall out. I want to see you be brave. And these things, Ally McBeal growing up, Ally McBeal had a theme song, and I think that has always stuck in my head. If anybody knows the show Ally McBeal, it has always stuck in my head to have a theme song, but I have like 20 of them. So I would say find yourself a strong song or something along those lines, because knowing you're doing the right thing and helping the community and helping us move forward and being kind and doing the loving thing, that is your superpower, right? That is all of our superpowers that we can enact and we can do right now. right now, and we can go show and do all these great things. So, about my book, I wrote it about the business world, but I'm working on one about communities now. Because what I learned is the same thing in business is what we need to do here in communities as well. And if we can do this by leading with kindness and coming back to that, I really truly believe that we can change not just our community, but this book can help change other communities as well. So working on that. And one last interesting story, and this is about somebody who left here. Who knows who just won a Tony Award? Exactly. And where did Matthew Lopez go to school? That right there shows you, because he won it out too, right? I mean, I know. But it shows you that you can, great things happen. You follow and you do the things and great things happen. And he really is an inspiration, I think, to everybody here in Bay County. And it's very interesting to know that, you know, he's from here. He wrote it, and I can't wait to see it one day because I have not seen it. I did not get a chance to do that. So, any questions for today? I went really fast. I did have caffeine, so if I talk too fast, you always can tell me to slow down because I have a tendency to do that. So, yes.
Yes. So yeah, I agree. Kindness and especially empathy are crucial for reducing prejudice, sexism, racism, xenophobia, et cetera, especially empathy. I think the ability to really take up the perspective of somebody else, which helps you really listen to their stories and understand. But how do we cultivate that? Do we all do love and kindness meditation?
I wish that worked. I mean, I know there's people out there that have proven if you get a whole bunch of people in one place, you can actually raise the level of things. I think it's us talking about it and showing it and being the examples of it. Because people, they need to see it. They have to see it. And if you don't show it, it's one of those things, right? You have to lead by showing. You can't just say it. You have to do it. And if people see you doing it and sitting down and talking with somebody of a different opinion or somebody with something else, they're gonna be like, wow, okay. You know, it's a funny story. So when I ran for city council, I had somebody on the beach who refused to sign my petition because of what political party I'm in. But city council positions are nonpartisan, so I was like, it shouldn't matter what political party. But he wouldn't listen to me, so I had to tell him. So I went and told him, no big deal. And he's like, nope, not gonna sign it. And he goes to shut the door. I said, wait, give me 5 minutes. Let's have a discussion here. Let's talk about why you don't wanna sign this for me. At the end, he ended up signing it for me, and he voted for me. Because it comes down to talking and listening, because that's the thing. I think all of us believe in the kindness, but somehow we have this hate, greed, and fear over here. The little devil going, no, 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 they don't really mean it. They're not really these people. They're really not that nice. They want to hurt me. You have people that think that way. And it's showing and being there, and you show one, then they show one, and then it just keeps growing from there. Yes?
I love the idea. My question is, how do you create a culture that creates kindness when our society is so stagnant? That's like the main thing.
So it comes down to the leadership of your company and your culture, right? I will tell you there are some really good companies out there that 100% believe in doing the right thing and the kindness factor. And I can't remember, it's a payment system. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he made everybody's salary $70,000 and took his salary down just to pay his people a decent wage. Okay, that man is making more money now than he ever did. Because this is where I think we get stuck, especially in Florida's now at $10 minimum wage, y'all. Woo! Sorry, that's nowhere close near what we need. But when you pay people a good wage and you treat them with kindness, they're going to do a better job. What does a better job include? More sales. This is such an easy equation because people here complain, I'm seeing it all over, that they can't find somebody to hire. Okay, I think I went by Dodge's the other day and they're paying $20 an hour. Dodge's Chicken is paying $20 an hour to get people. So why would somebody want to go make $12 an hour somewhere else? You pay your people well, you treat them decently, and they're going to do a good job, and you're going to continue to get more money. And that's where the business case for kindness comes in. In corporate, I didn't talk about this, but I saved corporate at this point, it's probably in the billions of dollars. At the time, it was in the hundreds of millions of dollars that I had saved AT&T working there. I was a process efficiency expert. So I literally, in the book, I go through how doing all of this, including, by the way, doing a public pay audit to prove you're paying people equally. Because I'll tell you, I know the loopholes, and they don't. And it's how they have it set up. It's the system, right? They make different job descriptions so that it can do all of this. But you do a public pay audit, you get rid of all the people who yell and scream, you know, or help them not yell and scream anymore, the bullies, and then you work down a path and have the employees understand that they're the most important. And that's actually what I wrote in my book, and guess what? Like year one, you're gonna make more money. It's so crazy to me to think that people think it's complicated. Treat your employees well, pay them well, they treat your customers well, you make more money. And that's actually why this town is ripe. If anybody wants to start a business or knows anybody who wants to start a business, this is the time to do it, because you could start a business in this town and lead with kindness and make a ton of money just by doing the right thing. It's an awesome thing. Any other questions? No? Alrighty, y'all. So I do have goodies up here for you. So please come and do this. And then I do have a copy. I was going to give, I don't know, can I give the library a book, like for them to put on, or how do I have to? Because I was going to.
I'll talk to them.
Okay, I'll give you 2 copies for the library, so that way if y'all want to have that, and then if you want to have one and share it, then that way I'll give it to you, and if people want to read it. Yeah, because it goes down to your path. I mean, my book, so who knows who Simon Sinek is? Brene Brown? Okay, so Brene Brown talks about being vulnerable, right? And how vulnerability, doesn't this make you vulnerable by willing to step up and do these things? Well, Simon Sinek wants you to find your why, right? So I say that the book actually is your roadmap to your why and your vulnerability, because I tell you how to do it in the book and what the steps you need to take are, because we step back. Every leadership book you have ever read in this world, who says yelling and screaming is the right way? But how often do we see companies being run that way? How often do we see our politicians leading that way? And right there, you know, we say bullying isn't right, but yet we keep electing them. So it's thoughts to think about going forward. So, but I got stuff up here, and I'll get you guys copies of the book, so that way you guys can do that. So, but I appreciate if you ever want to come out to the LGBTQ Center, let me know. We have, at this point, because of the COVID numbers, we've been doing things virtually. But on October 15th in downtown Panama City, we're going to be doing a poker run and then a drag show over at the Panama City Hot Glass. And then they're going to be doing a hot glass show. So if you're 21 and up and you want to come over, that's going to be happening on October the 15th. Then on let's step back. This Saturday, if you're interested, is the Women's March for Reproductive Rights. And that's happening this weekend. It's actually happening right over here at the Hathaway. So if you want to come on over, it starts at 11 a.m. If people are not aware. Florida's trying to do what Texas did and make a 6-week abortion ban, as well as who knows if they want to make a hotline to come after people. I don't know if they've talked about that yet, but it's a big deal, and I 100% believe in women's rights, and this is something that shouldn't be put up to law. I thought we had this handled before I was born. This was handled. Why are we still here? And then there is a Pride event over in Niceville on October 9th. If anybody wants to come over, it starts at 9 o'clock. So there's so many events going on. It's a fun time, except I went backwards because the poker run's probably going to be the most fun. So I really want everybody to come out for that one. So it's a good thing. Awesome.
All right,
Yep.
Let's thank our speaker.
Yay! Woo! And I will help. And I will help whoever wants to cultivate kindness, or if you've got questions, seriously, give me a call, send me an email. I'm here to help you, because I believe I'm that person. If you don't know this by now, I think you do. I'm that person. I'm going to keep going, and it's going to, we're going to change. This community is going to be fantastic. All right.